Thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. Hello friends, and welcome to my channel if you're new, or welcome back if you are back. If you are new, hi, my name is Rabbit and my pronouns are they, them, and either way, thank you so much for clicking on my video today. So today's video is like kind of a part 2 to my trans Masc goth fashion video, which you can watch somewhere here. If you haven't seen that video yet, that's kind of where I break down like style archetypes and silhouettes, makeup, and like little tutorials and hairstyles and these kind of things, whereas this video is going to be more like showing my examples of putting those concepts into practice. If you want to download the handy dandy visual guide to go with this, I'll link my Ko-fi below. Everything on there is free / pay what you want, so feel free to download those if they're of interest to you. It's gonna be a long video, as usual with me, so I'll have timestamps as always. I've decided to kind of organize the looks in 3 main categories: edgy, elegant, and fantasy. That kind of made sense to me, but I can understand that there's overlap and you know, these things aren't really strict categories. Regardless, you can see the timestamps below, so feel free to jump around. Now, a quick note on re-wearing and like borrowing versus buying and these kind of things. I love fashion content and DIY and these kind of things, but I really don't want to contribute to like overconsumption and the idea that like you have to buy things like just for one video or just for one look or like these kind of things. So a lot of what you'll see in this video today is borrowed from my partner Cage's side of the closet, so thank you so much to him, he's the best. But he's a lot taller and like broader than me, so some of the items don't really fit me correctly. So like in some cases I will have to ask you to use your imagination, like pretend this blazer fits, like, you know, that kind of thing. Like the fact that things don't really fit maybe is kind of the point in this video, the fact that like fashion doesn't have to be pristine or expensive to still feel expressive, but I still think it's really important to just like start where you are and use what you have. I think fashion is a lot more than just clothes. It can be like a really rich landscape to try things out and see what you're comfortable in, and sometimes it can feel hard to feel confident or like even know where to start. But maybe Skillshare has some tools to help you out with that journey, so I want to give them a thank you for sponsoring this video. Personally, being on camera, one skill that I've been trying to develop a little bit more is like self-portraiture and how I appear and that kind of thing. Not just as a way to document outfits, but also like as a way to understand myself and see like changes in presentation over time, and Skillshare has some really beautiful classes for that. Skillshare is the largest online learning community with thousands of classes by creatives and for creatives led by industry experts, and whether it's through storytelling, fashion, photography, or writing, they've got so many creative classes that support self-discovery. 2 classes that have personally stood out to me recently are How to Do Drag King Makeup and a class called The Intimate Self-Portrait, Photography as a Journey of Self-Discovery by Dan Liu. Both dig into creative transformation and seeing yourself in new ways, which I think is so powerful, especially if you're experimenting with how you present. The first 500 people to use the link in my description will receive a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. Get started today. One last thing before I get into the actual lookbook. I really want to say, again, as I always do with like my fashion and my DIY videos, I'm not prescribing exactly how you should dress. That's not the point. I'm trying to give like a starting point, some inspo. Absolutely leave what you don't like, take what you like. If you like something, you can feel free to copy it exactly. Like, I don't care. Remix, whatever. I am not holding you hostage and being like, dress like a wizard right now and dress exactly like me. Like, that's not the point. If you want to dress like a wizard, I get it, so do I, and I fully support that. But I'm just saying, these kind of videos, do whatever you want with them is kind of the point. Okay, now let's get into it. Alright, so this is a look that I have for a kind of punk guy. I'm a little self-conscious about what I look like from the front with a mohawk style haircut, so a lot of this is gonna be from the side for my personal comfort, please understand. Okay, so for this look, yes, I have put my hair up in this mohawky thing, more like a death hawk a little bit. I didn't want to go super hardcore with the gel. For makeup, I've gone with some dark under eyes, some contour, bushy brows. For jewelry, I have a safety pin earring, I have this little clay tooth, I have these little snake bite things that are just like old nose rings that, you know, didn't work out. I have a choker, but I'm wearing it like looser on my neck so it feels less dainty and a little more chunky, if that makes sense. Speaking of chunky jewelry, I have just like some random bits of chain and hardware, this big old chain necklace, and I've attached a bunch of random safety pins to my top to sort of restitch the slashes, but also just to add a little bit of metallic detail and hardware and that kind of thing. I rolled up my sleeves to show off my muscles, you know, just pretend I had some, and there we go. And then for my bottoms, I'm wearing some old skinny jeans from high school. I've also packed, because it's one of those things that makes me feel really gender euphoric, and I have a couple of belts on. I feel like the multi-belt thing is sometimes seen in the punk look, and any kind of maximalist fashion and ways you can add like a bunch of extra hardware and color and patches and stuff to me is just like so much fun. Speaking of, I have a bunch of bracelets and random cuffs and stuff on one arm, and for boots I'm just wearing my everyday Doc Martens, and I've rolled up the cuffs so they feel a little more like Masc, I guess? I don't know. I feel really comfortable and confident in this look, so super happy with it. Ideally these pants would be like a little bit baggier, but honestly one of the bonus parts of skinny jeans when you're doing like more Masc presenting stuff is that the packing is way more obvious. And yeah, that's my look for this kind of punk guy. Feel very happy in it, and on to the next. Alright, so this is one of my punk looks. So I've done my hair kind of up in this mohawky type shape. I've done a little bit of red eye, a little bit of mustache, a little fake lip ring. I have one earring, this one I borrowed from Cage. This is one of Cage's old jackets. It's just like a plain denim jacket. I noticed that a lot of mine are super colorful or like super patched, and they read a little bit more femme because I put a lot of like doll patches and that kind of thing on them. So something that was like a little bit more plain, felt more chill. I DIY'd both of these and then just added a couple of enamel pins. This shirt I also borrowed from Cage's side of the closet. I love wearing this shirt. It looks so cool in my opinion. Cage has a couple of shirts from Take to the Grave, and they're such a cool tattoo artist. I really love all their stuff. Then I have just one cuff on a wrist as like a bit of a bracelet, and my coffin ring as just like a little bit of a fidget. In terms of bottoms, I'm wearing some of my favorite everyday pants. These are just kind of loose plaid pants. I've layered on a couple of belts and a couple of dangly chains and random things just to add a little bit of extra asymmetry and interest, and then I've tucked them into my boots because I always feel most comfortable with my pants tucked into my boots. So yeah, that's what I got for this kind of like punk look. Feel pretty happy with it. On to the next. Alright, so this look is very much inspired by my boyfriend because he loves kind of cowboy fashion and that kind of stuff, and he's alternative and like a tattoo artist and loves goth music and stuff, so I was like thinking about him and cowboy goths and how that can totally be a thing. So let's talk about this. I've got my hair kind of like off to the side, slicked and tousled. If I had a cowboy hat I'd be wearing it, but I don't, so I'm not. For earrings, I have this one that's like a clay scorpion and this one that's a bone that I DIY'd. Got little mustachy makeup, a little bit of stubble, lots of contour, and kind of like a haunted undead kind of look. For jewelry, I wanted to incorporate some turquoise since you tend to see that a lot in Western wear. So I have this big chunky bracelet and this one ring and this other like coffin ring. You can't see it with the bandana on, but I've also added a bolo tie underneath because I feel like bolo ties are a classic thing in fun Western wear. This is just an orange bandana I've tied around my neck. This is Cage's black denim shirt. He painted it forever ago and it has such cool designs on it, so I love getting to break it out and wear it. For pants, I'd ideally be wearing looser fit ones, but I haven't bought jeans since I was in high school, so these are my high school jeans. They're just skinny jeans. Pretend they're like loose but fitted, if that makes sense. And I rolled them up and like pulled out the sock. I also thought it would be fun to use this necklace as a chain belt because it has all these stones on it that feel kind of like teeth and kind of Western wear, but wearing it as a necklace might feel a bit femme, so wearing it as a belt chain instead can make it feel a little bit more masculine. And I've attached this lighter holder that is hand painted to my carabiner. This is Cage's belt for like that big Western detail. So yeah, there we go. Kind of like spooky alternative cowboy look. It could be a thing, I'm sure. Anyway, on to the next. Alright, so this is my look for like kind of a romantic 80s vampire boy. You know, the kind that hangs out outside the goth club, smoking cigarettes, breaking hearts, and writing all sorts of cool lyrics. For hair, off to the side, big and swoopy, bat nest. I even kept out, oops, meant to keep out one little bit as like kind of a rat tail. I tried to braid it, but it hung in a really weird direction, but just like pretend this is like a little braided rat tail, and I think it would be fun. For makeup, we've gone dark and sunken and haunted with lots of contour and that kind of thing. Earring, asymmetrical. This is an old jacket that I DIY'd forever ago. And honestly, this is an outfit that I have worn in like very femme ways. This jacket, when you cinch it at the waist, is like a little mini dress moment, but like worn open and loose gives that nice magic long silhouette. Same with this kind of shirt and pants combo. I wear it in my more classically like femme outfits every day, but when I do that, I tuck it all the way in with the like the high-waisted pants, and it kind of like accentuates the waist, versus when you tuck just the front in and leave this, we can play with that more like kind of flat boxy silhouette. Same with like when I wear it with more femmy looks, I might wear it with like a little bit of a bra like peeking out, but with this we've just gone like big bare chest, one necklace on the chest, but otherwise I've put like my rosary on my pant belt instead, because I feel like unconventional ways of wearing jewelry can be very mask-coded. I do have a bunch of rings because I feel like vampire boys always have their cool rings. Speaking of pants, I would go with like a looser fit if I had them, but I went with some shiny, leathery ones for that rock star vibe. And honestly, like 80s dudes in their tight leather pants were super hot, so do not be afraid of taking inspo from that if it is of interest to you. I've got some big round clown-toed boots for that chunky outline. Bunch of random belt chains, like ones that are originally leashes, ones that are just a bunch of safety pins together, ones that are rosaries that I DIY'd. Oh, and I stuck on this little sword from the thrift store because I thought it'd be a fun little accessory on the shirt. Just an extra little bit of detail. And that's what I got for my little soft romantic vampire 80s guy. On to the next. Alright, this is another kind of like 80s vampire boy kind of look, so let me walk you through it. Got the same curly bat nest hair from last time with the dramatic eyes and contour and all that things for makeup. Got asymmetrical earrings. This one I stole from Cage and this one I made from a dollar store bone. I've gone with this big chunky choker, this little Baphomet necklace, and then it's contrasted with this rosary that I DIY. Just one chunky ring and a bunch of chunky bracelets. This one's actually a necklace, but it looked like a little too dainty as a necklace, so I thought rolling it up on my wrist would make it a little more butch. Speaking of this shirt, I normally wear it with the sleeves rolled down, but rolling them up can give like a much more like muscle tee kind of look. Plus I layered a loose fishnet shirt to kind of make my arms look possibly bigger than they are, and then just this other fishnet for some asymmetry and fun texture vibes. I really like my pants in this look. I've gone with the kind of faux leather latex leggings that I wish were a little bit looser, but it's okay. I've layered a bunch of different kind of leggy straps over them to give just more interest in the leg area and kind of more bulk to the thighs. And then for boots, I've gone with these more low-key ones. They're rolled down, so this would be more of like a comfy concert look that could be dressed up or down with more or less accessories, depending on what you're feeling. And it's honestly really similar to outfits that I wear in my everyday, just styled slightly different. Alright, so this is my look for a kind of more like grungy sort of like goblin type dude, and I feel like it's a fun look, so let me go ahead and walk you through it. This is what it looks like with the less layers, and you can obviously like take off the sunglasses, take off the beanie, whatever is comfortable to your standards, and etc, etc. But I've got this beanie on top. Cage made this one. It's one of his. It's just like his little fish design. For makeup, I've gone pretty minimal, just like the beard, the brows, a little bit of dark under eye, but nothing wild, and then the sunglass shades over my regular sunglasses because I feel like it gives like a little bit of an 80s vibe. For jewelry, I wanted to really like play with all these fun different like charms and found objects, because I feel like when you wear jewelry that's a little unusual, it can give those more mask vibes. So I have this one that's a lock, this one that was a keychain, and this one that's a possum head. I'm wearing this jacket inside out because it's super colorful, and I felt like the more toned down colors gave the more kind of mask grungy vibe. I have the long flannel to sort of harken back to the grunge look. And then this is a super old graphic t-shirt that's like super worn and uncomfy. I've rolled up the sleeves to imitate them being cut off. For pants, these are way too loose, but they're Cage's pants, and ideally it would just be like some slightly better fitting black jeans type thing. I've also layered like carabiner, safety pins, random chains from the thrift store, and whatever on, as well as Cage's keys since they have all these fun different charms and whatever. And then yeah, for shoes I just have my Docs. So this is my kind of grungy goblin guy. He's a collector, he's a scavenger. He smells a little dirty, but he's a lot of fun to hang out with. Yeah, on to the next. So this is my look for kind of skate park punk guy. I don't know, I feel like it works. So I have my hair just off to the side. For makeup, I've done a bit of like a messy, grown-in beard, bit of dark eyes but nothing wild, and like some dark brows. Jewelry, I thought that these kind of necklaces worked pretty good for like those skater type looks. We've gone with one asymmetrical earring, some bracelets on only one wrist. Same with like a lanyard, because I feel like I always see those skater dudes with the lanyards, and the specific skater, like, okay, growing up my brother did a lot of skating and I would always see him with the shoelace belts, to the point that I would buy him belts for Christmas and stuff because I was like, oh, clearly he just doesn't have belts, but it's just part of the style. Anyway, so I decided to incorporate that as like a little nod to him. This is a Sublime t-shirt that I have from high school that I bleach dyed a little bit. These are Cage's swim shorts. They've got this like barbed wire kind of design, which I thought was a little bit fun. I'd wear skate shoes if I had them, but I'm not a skater, so I'm just wearing my Docs. And that's that. So this is kind of a more summery look. If you had denim shorts and you wanted to add like a bunch of patches to them, I think that would be really cool as well. But otherwise, that's this. On to the next. This is definitely bringing me back to like my very young teenage days, but this is my kind of emo boy look, as much as I could. And I feel like it works for the style, even though this isn't a style that I've personally worn in a really, really long time. Regardless, I have straightened my hair. Please ignore how fried it looks, and put it off to the side with like an attempt at like a swoopy bang. I feel like the hair is kind of the key to these kind of looks. Then I've done the dark eyeshadow. I have a fake stretcher in. I've got a bunch of eyeliner. I wanted to play with a lot of layers, so I've done that mostly with sleeves. So like on this hand, I have my little like wool arm warmer, and then this little skeleton glove and the fishnet, and like this black sock thing, and then the actual sleeves themselves, and then this cool t-shirt that used to belong to Cage. I've layered on a bunch of silver jewelry, this lock that I DIY'd, the skeleton hand that I DIY'd, this little possum, and this that feels kind of skater, but I feel like also works with kind of emo looks. Of course, we had to go with the skinny jeans and the multiple belts. Ideally, I would probably go with like more of a straight leg than a super skinny, but I feel like the emo look is definitely one that you can get away with the skinny jean if that's what you want to do. And then I have my black creepers. Definitely would go with Converse if I had them, but I don't, so we work with what we have. And that is my look for a little kind of like emo trash prince. I feel like it's a little more gender neutral, but still super fun. On to the next. Alright, so this look is kind of more graveyard gentleman. It's a little bit dandy inspired, definitely like more elegant and classy, and like I feel very fancy and like I'm ready to haunt a castle or a tea party. So let's talk about this. I have put my hair back in like a little tiny ponytail to give that little like old school man ponytail look. We've got some dark contour so it looks like we've been up in the graveyard all night. For jewelry, I love these kind of collar chains. It's kind of like an alternative to a necklace. Still feels like a bit of detail and fun, but feels like a little bit more Masc than like a classic pendant. This is a shirt that I got in order to DIY, and I haven't gotten around to it yet. But I figured it worked really well for this as long as it's unbuttoned. When it's buttoned up, you get that really little like femme silhouette, but unbuttoned, it's like this very fancy purple and black velvet thing. This is from the thrift store, but the original owner got it at Le Chateau, so it's like technically a woman's coat, but it can still work in an absolutely fun, dandy fashion. Then I have some mesh gloves. These are vintage and were given to me by an old relative. And I have paired them with a bunch of rings for a bit of drama and kind of vampiric elegance. Pretend this cane is like silver topped and not Beetlejuice themed, but I feel like, yeah, a dandy with a cane, it's just meant to be. My tight black leather pants, ideally it would be like black pleated pants, but just bear with me. For shoes, I've gone with something that's like a little bit more fancy and elegant. They're these purple velvet, slightly heeled ones, and they feel very like theatrical and kind of elegant and almost like little tap shoes. So I feel like they're fancy, but they still kind of like work with the outfit. So that's my little Graveyard Gentleman, kind of dandy inspired, fancy vampire look. On to the next. So this is my other Graveyard Gentleman look, and this one I wanted to go, yeah, very poetic, very romantic. I've included a cape for the chilliness, but I also just wanted to show what it looked like without it, and walking stick, because we feel very fancy and like we're off to the opera. So let me walk you through this look. Got the hair tied back. I decided to tie it back with a ribbon, because that felt very elegant and fancy. But still like something like vintage and Masc. This ribbon might be a little long. Ignore it, I didn't feel like cutting it. This is a cloak that I got from the thrift store. This is a shirt that I got from the thrift store that had some horrible buttons, so I replaced them with tiny skulls. Makeup, we've done this. I think that one of the classiest, most elegant, and hottest men of Goth, you know, inspiration is Vincent Price. So I wanted to do like a tiny little mustache to kind of give that little like look. I just wanted to do an homage there. So that's what we got for the makeup and face and stuff, plus a lot of contour. I wanted to do one very elegant necklace, just like one big chonker, because yeah, so many people think that Masc looks can get ruined by jewelry, but I feel like they can elevate them and feel like a big vampiric count, you know what I mean? I've got a jabot that I made and matching little wrist cuffs, plus I've layered them over my big white fluffy top. For pants, I would really wish these were more like slim leg, but I just borrowed Cage's corduroy because corduroy feels like a very vintagey fashion, and I wanted to not just keep relying on my leather pants. And then I've gone with creepers because they feel smart, but still very like gentlemanly and like kind of elegant, and I don't have any like little pointy vampire boots. So yes, this is kind of my vampire Graveyard Gentleman look. I'm feeling it, I think it's cute. Yeah, on to the next. So this is one of my steampunk looks that I have. It's kind of more like a steampunk sea captain. Neither of my steampunk looks feel super steampunk, but I do feel like a fancy Baroque gentleman, so at least there's that. Talking you through this look, I have straightened my hair and put it in like a little mini low ponytail because I feel like that was kind of a look back then. I've left out some random strands just to give it that like messy, we've been on the sea all night and haven't had time to properly groom ourselves. Speaking of, I've darkened my eyes, done some contour, and done a little bit of mustache. With my glasses, I've added this little glasses chain because I feel like it adds a little bit of metallic detail to the face. Otherwise, for jewelry, I have some brooches. I've put this really big fancy necklace as like a shoulder kind of cuff thing. I have this brooch. And then this jacket is just one of the most majestic things in my entire wardrobe. This jacket my mom gave to me recently. She's had it in her closet for I don't know how long, but like me, she's always been really into super like fancy, extravagant, incredible clothes. And this jacket is from an old-time theater production. I'm not really sure of what or what character it is. I asked because I was so curious, but she didn't really have any info for me there. One of my favorite things about it is how kind of tattered and a little bit rugged it is, like some of the lace is coming out and it just makes it feel like extra old-timey and vintage. She also had to repair it with some gold lace, and to add a little bit of that extra same detail, I've tied a little bit of that extra same lace around my neck as like a little jabot, scarf, cravat, ascot thing. I honestly don't know what it is, it's just a piece of cloth. And I'm not very well versed in men's tie wear. Otherwise, I have some suspenders and I have attached a little vintage brooch to the suspender in the waist belt. Just adds a little bit of sparkle in an interesting spot, in my opinion. This jacket is definitely a little bit more flared than is ideal, but I still think it works okay, especially when it's worn open. When it's closed, you can definitely tell like the hourglass shape goes out more, so I feel like wearing it open and like a little bit back helps kind of disguise that silhouette a little bit. In terms of pants, my mom is coming in as the hero again. These are her old pants from the 80s. I think they're so cool. They have the front pleats that feel very vintage, and like added with the suspenders I feel like can give it a little bit more of a Masc feeling. I've tucked them into these little low boots because they kind of feel like little riding boots, but ideally I'd wear something more like that, maybe in a brown. So yeah, that's kind of my like steampunk sea captain look. He feels very fancy, very elegant. That's what I got here. On to the next. Okay, so this is my other slightly steampunk inspired look. This guy's like a little bit more of like an aviator, a little bit more of like an Italian vintage suit connoisseur, and less of like a 1920s noir detective. But regardless, I think they're both a lot of fun. I still don't think I quite hit the steampunk note on either of them, but regardless. Got the steampunk goggles as a headband. I got these at London Drugs ages and ages ago during Halloween, and they were great. Glasses with the little tinted circle lenses. I feel like circle glasses work really good in steampunk looks. For my hair, I've just kind of put it back. And then I wanted to do like an ascot or like a little cravat thing. So I tied this handkerchief around my neck to give that kind of look. And then I'm wearing a fluffy white shirt with this big silver necklace as a brooch dangling down. I added this charm that looks kind of like a tooth to the jacket. Got some chunky rings. This is a little kind of military style jacket that I got to DIY but haven't gotten around to it yet, so I figured it worked out well. It's got some shoulder pads in the sleeves. This belt, I got it forever and ever ago, probably when I was like in high school, and I got it at Hot Topic, but it's got these fun little brass details, so I figured it would work in this kind of look. And we've got the same pants again, the ones from my mom, and these big old boots that have the clown toe, just to give a bit more of like a gothy edge, but I feel like it's a lot of fun. So yes, this is my sort of more aviator, steampunk, almost like riding wear inspired a little bit, but I think that just might be because my pants are tucked into my really high boots. Anyway, on to the next look. Okay, so this look was originally going to be like dark academia Masc version, but it ended up going a little more grandpa goth, but I honestly feel okay with that. So for this look, I have my hair kind of straightened and slicked back-ish, but like in a pretty messy way. For makeup, I've got some dark eyes, some stubble, mustache, contour, that kind of thing. I have this white collared shirt, and I borrowed Cage's really nice suit jacket and added these really gorgeous vintagey pins, plus this, which was from Cage's sister's wedding, and this little sword pin. Underneath the jacket, I have on one of Cage's old vests, and since these pants are high-waisted, to make them look a little less femme, I like tucked in the vest and then untucked it, so it kind of gives a more rectangular silhouette instead of like the super tucked in high up one. For my pants, I'm wearing these ones that belong to my mom. They're so freaking cool. They're that nice dark green color. I could go with something black for this also, but I felt like they melded in with the dark green. I rolled out the cuffs and added on some little creepers. So that's one of my kind of dark academia Masc looks slash grandpa goth slash whatever. I feel like it also works with the glasses, but whatever. On to the next. Alright, so this look is very, like, kind of academia goth, slightly more greaser version of, like, the library ghoul kind of archetype guy. Alright, so for this look, I put my hair in, like, a little man bun type thing and just really lightly brushed out my bangs so they're, like, very much not combed. I've got glasses, and I added a necklace chain as, like, a little glasses chain because I feel like they add a bit of interest to the face without being, like, proper jewelry, but rather more, like, weird jewelry. I have one earring of a bat in one ear, so we're nice and asymmetrical. Rosary necklace, little neck kerchief that has little kitties on it if you look close, and a big old ring on my finger. Briefcase, because it kind of brings in that academia vibe. This huge red blazer type jacket. Ideally it would be a little bit smaller. This one is from a Beetlejuice costume that Cage did, where we did like Lydia and Beetlejuice a couple years ago. He still has it, so I figured it worked. And I just layered it with a black button down to keep it nice and smart. And this like square belt buckle sort of thing, because I feel like square belts like this are pretty like Masc coated. Now, ideally these pants would have a titch more structure and like a pleat in the front would be ideal, but I figured like the plaid kind of dips into the academia while also being like a little bit punk rock, so it works. You could definitely add some more belt chains and like safety pins if you wanted to go that direction. Got little creepers because they feel very academic in terms of shoes. And yeah, that's my little kind of devilish academia guy. I feel fun. On to the next. This is a little weird because I kind of look exactly like my ex. However, this is my kind of like pirate sort of inspired look. And I feel like vampires are super utilized in goth and alternative fashion, and with good reason. They have incredible style historically. But one group that I think should be utilized more in alternative fashion, especially like men's alt fashion, is like the pirate stuff. It's so cool in my opinion. It can still be like super fun and alternative, and you can just like play around and have so much fun with it. I know this might be a little over the top for some people, but you could tone it down by like taking off the headband, taking off the extra accessories, whatever you need. Talking me through this look, I've put my hair messy and I've like braided some random chunks. I could add in like even some pieces of twine and stuff, and I have this piece of gold lace that my mom gave me forever ago that I've wrapped around my head as a bandana. Got some facial hair to go that kind of we've been on the boat and haven't had time to shave look. Asymmetrical earrings. We've got one that's like a faux stretcher thing, and this one that is very piratey. It's like a little sword with a skull and crossbones. I've layered these little lens thingies over top of my regular glasses. Cage got them for me and I think they're so fun. Got some jewelry because I feel like pirates are all about the treasure and the jewelry and all the stuff, so I wanted to incorporate some stuff there. But instead of doing a lot of like neck jewelry, I've put a lot of my necklaces onto my belt so we can still get all that fun jingle jangle, but like without piling it onto the body. Speaking of belts, I have piled 2 asymmetrical belts over my chest to kind of draw the line this way across the chest and kind of break up this section. This one is like a waist belt that I've put sideways, and this one kind of reminds me of kilt, but it's like made of leather leaves, which is a lot of fun. I have one arm warmer, again for the asymmetrical look, with some bracelets on the other side, and this is just a thrifted like white button-down shirt. For my bottoms, I've taken a skirt and just tucked the top into the pants, so we've got kind of like the drop crotch pants going. It feels very piratey in my opinion, and the fact that the skirt is an asymmetrical cut makes the pants asymmetrical too, which is a lot of fun. I've also layered the aforementioned belt on top just for extra texture, including this little lighter holder with the scorpion on it. Cage got this for me, it's so cool. I've also tied the belt really low on my hips as opposed to like up here, which is where I normally would do it. And I've got these little fold over docks that are super old and beat up, but I feel like they work for this look. So yeah, that is a pirate look. On to the next. This is another kind of pirate look, but I wanted to show just like how much you can take items that are already in your wardrobe and might seem like really feminine and just change them completely. So this is what this outfit is looking like. We've got the hair up and back, got a little bit of like facial hair and like sunken eyes and like that whole kind of thing. I have like a kind of big chunky necklace with like all these fun stones on it because it kind of felt piratey. And then this is like a long lace duster, but I've kind of tucked it into the back so it doesn't like have that super long like flowy femme shape. Instead it kind of just like adds like a little jacket lace detail. This is like a little bra thing, but when it's unbuckled it kind of looks like a weird little vest. This shirt is normally like supposed to be worn like way up here, but when you wear it loose and layer a belt over top and put like a sports bra underneath, then you just get like interesting cool texture layers, interesting things. Normally I would wear this untucked, this down here, this like all tied up and tight, but like just with a slightly different shape of it, we can get a completely different silhouette and vibe. Then the bottoms are the same as for the other pirate look, but I have added this big seashell belt that I DIY'd forever ago. It normally goes around your waist like this, but I decided to wear it in like this asymmetrical fashion, and I got the same boots as before. So that's this kind of pirate look. Just kind of wanted to show other examples of ways you can style pieces that might not be seen as like classically masculine in ways that can read more androgynous or masculine. All right, on to the next. Alright, next to pirates and vampires, like I already talked about, I feel like another untapped source of potential for Masc fashion inspo is wizard stuff. Dude, like especially if you're into fantasy stuff like I am, this is just a treasure trove of interesting and fun prints, and you don't have to go in like a super femme way to have like a lot of fun with it. So for this I've put like a couple of random braids in my hair. I've used this random really long necklace as a big glasses chain. I love the beads because they feel all like blue and fun and cool and like meld into the outfit. For other jewelry I have this big old pendant, some super chunky bracelets on this side, rings on both fingers, and a lot of random little beads and things on my belt that I will show more up close in a moment. I've also attached another belt as like a crossbody bag, and then this is a thrifted pajama shirt that I got forever and ever ago. It's just like silky, super soft, and it works in so many different outfits for me over the years. For the bottom half of the outfit, I have a big old belt pocket thing as a fanny pack slash decoration, and I've attached a bunch of different necklaces and charms and ruins and old keychains and bracelets and all sorts of stuff just to add all fun, interesting wizard vibes. I wanted some interesting loose pants, but I didn't have the ones that I was looking for, so this is just a black skirt that I've tucked up into a sort of diaper situation, but I feel like it works and kind of just looks like drop crotch pants. And then I've paired it with these big black boots that go up pretty high, so it kind of just like works as one solid leg. So yeah, I feel like this is a fun fantasy look, very me, definitely not everyone's style, but I enjoy this kind of thing a lot. Alright, so this is another sort of wizard inspired look that I wanted to play with, just because like, yeah, wizard stuff and fantasy stuff is so fun. I also put on elf ears for this, which I know isn't for everyone, but I think it's a really cool like addition to these kind of fantasy and like otherworldly looks. Regardless, I've got this detachable hood on that I've just kind of like layered to lay over my shoulders. The little sunglasses, dark makeup, a little bit of beard stubble, bunch of rings on. For jewelry, I have this one kind of faux stretcher earring because I feel like it fits into this sort of aesthetic. This charm of a raven skull, and this little sword that I've pinned onto my shirt. This is like a little bra top that I've worn open as a vest, and then this is my bathrobe that I use after I shower, but I feel like it can give kind of fun wizard energy. I'm wearing my square buckle belt, and I've also pinned this sword pin onto it. I've got a bunch of chains on the leg, including this one that's a big necklace, this big leg garter, and my floppy docks on. So it's just like a fun, kind of little spooky, gothy wizard fantasy inspired look. Alright, so this look is supposed to be kind of like post-apocalyptic, a little bit like futuristic, wasteland, rave, lots of random buckles and bangles and things like that. So let me walk you through this. I've done my hair in like the mohawk-y kind of style. For face makeup, I've done a little bit of like temporary tattoos, and like some of them have gold details because I want to do some interesting like eye circuitry or like things like that, but I'm not great at that kind of makeup, so temporary tattoos it is. Got these tiny sunglasses that I'm like wearing down on my nose. This necklace that my mom gave me. Got mismatched gloves, some bangles on this arm, and this little kind of waist pouch, but I'm wearing it as a sash so it kind of disguises some of the bust area. I'm wearing a tank top underneath because you don't have to go super baggy all the time with silhouettes to still make boyish shapes. You can still go like kind of flat, and if you like pile on some other stuff, it can distract from the curves. I kind of wanted to show that a little bit. Now, this is a little like cropped sweater, but I feel like the way that it's structured kind of helps my shoulders look nice and baggy and gives that kind of like big shoulder vibe. Plus these chains, normally I like clip them around the back and they look like very like sexy and feminine, but I feel like clipped down they look a bit more interesting and utilitarian. This outfit also has a hood, so I can wear it up, but I feel like the mohawk is cool, so it is what it is. Attempt at a mohawk, rather. These are Cage's pants. They're just some fun cargos, and I've added a belt and keys and a carabiner, and this interesting like little octopus thing. I've tucked these pants into the boots. Honestly, these pants feel a little bit Kim Possible, but whatever, please give me a pass. Imagine if they're black instead. Cage doesn't have any black cargo, so this is what we're working with. And yeah, I feel like this is a very fun look, kind of futuristic, a little bit like tech wear, rave, interesting style. I like the makeup. I think the makeup's a lot of fun, and the hair. But yeah, that's what I got for this. On to the next. Alright, so this is my other kind of future, post-apocalypse, slightly tech wear, kind of punk guy look. And I'm enjoying it. I feel pretty happy in it. So I have my hair back in like the sort of faux hawk style again. Got my regular glasses with like the little circle lenses over top. And I added some different types of temporary tattoos still around the eye area. I have this loose metal choker, and then I wanted to like play with that like kind of chunky neck sort of silhouette. So I have done that, plus like rolled up the sleeves and done like the skinny arms, and then I'll scroll you down so you can like see more. But like I really enjoyed this kind of different silhouette style for me. This hoodie was made by an ex-boyfriend of mine. It's just like a regular hoodie that he layered bike parts on and like bleached and spray painted and did different designs on. But I feel like a lot of the metal designs give kind of post-apocalypse. I have this kind of like amulet looking pendant, which I thought was like a lot of fun. For bottoms, these are definitely a little bit loose, but I borrowed a pair of Cage's denim cargo pants. Ideally they'd be like a lot more distressed, but they're his, so I didn't want to do that. And then I have a pocket belt that I've layered unbuckled over top of them, plus some really big chunky boots, just to again play with the silhouette of like chunky top arm, skinny bottom arm, chunky top leg, skinny bottom leg, that kind of thing. I think it's a lot of fun and an interesting kind of like summer post-apocalypse sort of look. I don't know. On to the next. Okay, so this is a style that I do not wear very much in my real life, so I don't have like kind of any experience with it really, but I find it so much fun whenever I see pictures of it online, and the style is kind of like Club Kid androgyny sort of thing. This is my attempt at that. So one of my favorite things about androgynous fashion looks is when instead of going for like the super like no gender type of androgyny, it's like the super like campy mixing genders type of androgyny. It's like one of my absolute favorite things of all time. So for this look, I've gone with my hair to the side. I have like a little mustache, some blue lipstick, some very like glam 80s style eye makeup on one side, and then just like this kind of clown inspired little dot on the other side. One dangly earring, this brooch, and this neckerchief that feels like very fancy and elegant. I've also paired it with this kind of overbust latex corset-y thing because I thought it would be a fun contrast to have like the ruffly shirt with like the kind of more male-coated cravat, but like with this more like fetish-coated kind of over layer thing. And then yes, I have my frilly shirt. I have my fancy gloves because these kind of looks always feel so fun with gloves and like, yeah, just so elegant. I have a very fancy little vintage elegant purse because it just feels like a good contrast with like boxer shorts rolled up and like untucked. The mix of very casual and very fancy. I also have my Beetlejuice cane. Again, pretend it's like a silver-tipped cane, you know, work with me here. For pants, I'm just wearing a pair of Cage's boxers. I have this leg strap on one leg, and then both really big chunky platform boots as my footwear. So yes, it's like a very fun, very club, kind of almost Mad Hatter sort of look, but I thought it would be just like a good time to experiment. So yes, that's this. Alright, so this is a look that I have, this kind of like Andro Club Kid, kind of futuristic, lots of like kind of leather and fishnets and kind of like fetish elements. I think it's a lot of fun, so let me go ahead and talk you through it. Put my hair in a ponytail and got my bangs out in like their V-bang, which I think is the first time I've done it for this lookbook. For makeup, I've done a lot of like temporary glitter tattoos on my face and some of that like geometric eye makeup that was very popular in the 80s and like mod and those kind of cultures. These are like so fun. There's like bats and moons and that kind of thing. Got a tiny mustache, bushy brows, and black lipstick. I'm wearing this leather kind of like shoulder pad piece. I feel like it really gives me those bigger more masculine shoulders, which is really fun. And though this is a tube top and like a little fishnetty shirt, I feel like the silhouette can still kind of read as kind of masculine when I pair it with these sort of jogger type pants, even if they have like all these leathery straps over top of them. I've also layered this necklace as a bracelet on this arm, and I have a big sparkly moon earring in one ear. The pants feel kind of tech wear, and I paired them with these boots that have like a little bit of a high heel, just because I feel like the Club Kid style is all about that like gender fuckery and like the high heels but with the pants but like with the leather, you know, like all the mixture of the casual and the elegant, all these kind of things. So having a lot of fun. This isn't a look that I usually play with or like do a lot of, even in my like more like femme style, more normal everyday looks. So yeah, fun to experiment and feel like a cool dude from the future. So yeah. Alright, well that is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. This was seriously so much fun for me to do, so thank you to everyone who requested it. This was just like a really fun way for me to play around with some fashion. So yes, thank you again to all the love, especially on the first video. You guys are the best. Love you. Whoever you are out there, feel free to experiment, go wild, whatever your gender. Keep being fun with your fashion, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Alright, thanks for watching. Hope to see you in the next one. Bye!